What is up, YouTube? It is that time of year again. The NFL is back. We are back as well for our podcast every single week to cover all of these games, guys. We are back with Alex Carminati as well. So let's get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. Leave your guys' predictions down below. So, Alex, it is officially that time. The NFL season is about to begin. Before we get into the week one games, I would love to ask you, when it comes to some of the teams in the league, who are a couple teams that you think this year might take a step forward, a step backwards? Would love to hear what you have to say on this.
Well, Jay, it's good to be here with you for another season. I'm in a different setting. I'm not in New York or New Jersey. I actually live in Minnesota now.
Yeah.
So I live all the way in the upper Midwest, and I'm wearing a Packers jersey in Minnesota. I'm still alive, thank God. Um, although I was in Wisconsin this past
Yeah.
weekend, and I was liked a lot better there for wearing this.
I
Anyway,
can
the
only
point is,
imagine, yeah.
is that Anyway, it's good to be back here with you, Jay, for another season of football talk. That's a really intriguing question because we could see a lot of teams step up, we could see a
Yep.
lot of teams step back, and we could see a lot of teams be the same. Most notably, Kansas City. God forbid they win a third straight title, but
Yeah.
they could potentially this year. I think San Fran will still be in the mix as one of the best teams in the
Yep.
NFC. A team that could be really, something or could be somewhat of a shocker. It depends on how healthy Kirk Cousins is. It really depends on how healthy they do in that really, really debacle division.
Yeah.
I think the Atlanta Falcons could be a surprise this year. And I
I agree.
say that because of the way they brought in Kirk Cousins. Now, guaranteed he's coming off a torn Achilles tendon, but you bring him in there with Kyle Pitts, with some more receivers, and the way they were able to build up their offense and defense a bit better, I think Atlanta could be a bit of a surprise this year.
Yeah.
I think Tampa Bay as well could be the same exact surprise a little bit. Now, guaranteed Baker Mayfield had a really good year last year. The Bucks were able to make the second round of the playoffs. They almost beat Detroit to make the NFC title game. So I think the Buccaneers should be taking another step forward, depending on how Detroit does this year.
Yep.
Matter of fact, the Lions could be a team as well that could really stand out. Now, they had a remarkable season last year. They were one half away from winning the NFC title and making the Super Bowl for the first time ever,
Yep.
but they blew that lead and lost by 3. So I think those are 3 teams right there that could be a massive surprise in the NFC.
Yep.
For the AFC, there's a couple teams that stand out. One of them for sure, of course, is the New York Jets. And it depends on the health of Aaron Rodgers. If Rodgers is healthy, which of course is a big if, because last year, 4 snaps in, towards Achilles, done for the year. If he's healthy, the Jets could be a team that could either make a wild card spot or potentially win that division,
Yep.
which is not crazy to say, because the Jets with Aaron Rodgers healthy could be really scary. With someone
Yes.
like Garrett Garrett Wilson, some of their other top players too, and the Jets had a pretty good draft. They sort of built up their O line a little bit this offseason, which hopefully will keep Rodgers healthy.
Yes.
They could be a team that could surprise. Now, Aaron Rodgers has taken guys like Davante Adams or guys off the street like Jeff Janis,
Yep.
and he's made them very useful players, regardless of talent. I think he can do that with players like a Garrett Wilson, who is a star, Alan Lazard
You
back
add
with his
Mike
old pal this
Williams.
time.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams coming over from the Chargers. That's a massive addition right there that you just said. So you put 3 receivers like there in Wilson, Lazard, and Williams. That's lots of tools for Aaron Rodgers to work with. I wish they gave him the same tools in Green Bay to work with, trust me. But the point is that, look, if he's healthy and the offensive line can be competent, the Jets could win 10 games this year. Seriously,
Yes.
that's not crazy to say.
No,
It all depends on whether or not Aaron Rodgers is healthy. So the Jets could be a team that could shock people. Another team that could shock people in a bad way, in my opinion, is the Buffalo Bills. I think they're going to take a step back somewhat this year.
I agree.
And I say that because of the fact that they traded away Stephon Diggs to Houston. That Josh Allen has been kind of shaky this preseason,
Yeah.
and when we've seen him out there, it hasn't been the best performance.
Yeah.
On top of the
Also, I
fact
believe Matt
that the fact
Milano's out again. Matt Milano's out for a bit too.
right.
Another big loss there.
Right. Well. That also, Jason. Their defense got kind of shaken up too with him being injured. But the thing is that you've seen the Bills start their preseason, play their starters in the preseason in a very unorthodox way. Something we really haven't seen, or really should not be seeing by a team in any capacity.
Usually, you see
in
them
this
get
league.
like a quarter, and that's it.
Jordan Love had 3 snaps this preseason, and the third snap was a 65-yard touchdown pass. So Jordan Love was on the dime for those 3 plays. That was more than enough to, show you that he's the real deal.
He's ready to go. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. But the thing is, though, I mean, you look at Buffalo, the way they play their starters more than they should have. At the same time, lots of scenarios going in without Diggs and some injuries, like you mentioned. I think they could take a step back. Matter of fact, not only do I think the Jets are going to be a good team this year to watch out for, the Houston Texans could be a team that I think could give the Kansas City Chiefs a good run for the money in being the top team, period, in the AFC. And I say that not just because of the great year they had last year and C.J. Stroud really balling out the way he did. Now that C.J. Stroud has the former Bills receiver, Stephon Diggs, to his arsenal, watch out for that duo. C.J. Stroud and Stephon Diggs could be one of the scariest QB wide receiver duos in the entire league this year. So that could give really a good run of the money to KC, where you're still not sure who their number 1 guy is since Tyreek Hill. Now, sure, Travis Kelce's the big star for tight end, but when it comes to the receivers, despite them winning a championship again, their receiving core was weak. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling left Kansas City to join Buffalo. So the Chiefs' receiving core is a little weak, like it was last year. Now, guaranteed, their star receiver in that somewhat capacity, Rashid Rice, is still there, and Mahomes is really going to use him this year. But you look at Stephon Diggs with C.J. Stroud, that could make a really good comparison to be up there for the top duos between a quarterback and some type of receiver. Now, of course, right now it's Mahomes and Kelce, but watch out for Stroud and Diggs, and that can be a real scary threat. On top of the same time that the Texans just had a really good offseason in furthering their defense, bolstering their defense too. So I think the Jets and Texans could be really scary teams to watch out for in the AFC. And like I said before, Tampa and Atlanta, those 2 teams, they're the top teams in a really crummy division yet again. But for those 2 teams, it's going to be more competitive to see who's the top dog and who isn't. And again, a team like Detroit, watch out for them. My Packers could have a really good year. I mean, Jordan Love just got a massive contract. Now, I think it's too much for him right now, but the Packers had no choice to pay him, and that's fine. Because Jordan Love earned the spot as the starter last year. He was incredible. And the way he was able to go into Dallas round 1 and beat up on Dak and the Cowgirls, it was a great way to win. And honestly, they should have beaten San Francisco, but unfortunately, that scrub, Anders Carlson, missed the kick, and now he's gone. So the Packers could have played the Lions last year in the NFC title game.
Such a crazy, unexpected NFC championship.
Yeah. And again, for the Packers as that 7th seed last year, they could be a team where they could be really scary with Jordan Love coming back for year 2 as the starter. And on top of the fact, they could honestly maybe win the division, depends on depends on how Detroit does. But they could win the division, and they could shock Detroit even. So I think the NFC North will be pretty tight between Green Bay and the Lions. I think Detroit still wins it personally, but it's going to be a lot closer than it was last year for sure. So those are some teams, in my opinion, who could take a step forward, some taking a step back, like Buffalo. I think Pittsburgh's going to be lousy. I mean, the fact that they traded for Justin Fields and he's not starting, no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but he's not the same guy we
Yes.
saw in Seattle.
Yeah. No.
There's a
100%.
reason why he flopped in Denver.
Yeah.
And now that he's on this, rebuild redemption tour, and they're giving him the starting job over Justin Fields, I think that's going to blow up very
I agree.
quickly. And maybe it doesn't, but don't be shocked by week 4 or 5 seeing Russ getting benched if he struggles to start the year. Justin Fields come on in, and Justin Fields could save the season by then. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think Russell Wilson's going to struggle like
Yeah.
he did in Denver. So we'll see where it goes. But
So
those are some of
yeah.
my thoughts right there. And
So my
we'll
question
see.
for you: yes and no. Do you think Mike Tomlin finally has that losing season?
Again, it all depends on how Russ starts and whether Justin Fields comes
Yes.
in or not.
Yeah.
I think it could happen. I
Yeah.
think it could not happen. The fact that he's had 17 consecutive winning seasons is incredible.
Yes.
Kudos to him. On top of the fact that he's won 2 titles.
Yes.
But it all depends on Russ. And honestly, it also depends on how healthy the Steelers are too.
Yes.
Because especially on defense, they get banged up too much.
Agreed.
On defense and their O-line.
They did
gets
get
hurt
Patrick
a lot.
Queen, which is a big defensive move, by the way. They did get Patrick Queen.
They did from Baltimore, which was awesome to get him from a true division rival.
Yes.
But again, if they can stay healthy in the secondary, because Mika Fitzpatrick is great,
Yep.
but he also has his health problems a lot.
Yep.
The O-line gets banged up. Cam
Yeah.
Hayward is getting 1 year older. He's not the same. I mean, he's still good, but he's not where he was several years ago. So you see this Pittsburgh team, it all depends on health. It all depends on Russ.
Yes.
Those are the 2 big factors. And if Russ stinks and Justin Fields has to come in, I think they could still have a winning season.
Yep.
But it could be a lot to ask for, depending on A, if Russell Wilson struggles, and 2, despite his hypothetical struggles, how long he still is the main guy for.
Yep.
Mike Tomlin could keep him there for half the season, and they could be 2-6, right?
Yeah,
so then who knows what that could look like?
Agreed.
That's really a really intriguing thing. It's gonna be a play-by-ear situation.
Yes, agreed. Completely agreed. A couple of speed teams I want to speed through quickly. And I know as a Bengals fan, this might sound like I'm biased a little, but I do think the Bengals will be back to their usual selves this year. I do not expect them to have a year like they did last year. It was a very mediocre year where they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, you would hope, because there are 2 things riding that potential. Number 1, Joe Burrow's health. Hopefully he's healthy. And the problem, though, is, they are having a big problem getting Jamar Chase on board right now.
Yes.
Because he's still holding out. And the way it looks right now, he's not going to play week 1. He maybe will, maybe not. But things don't look, promising for him to play.
That's terrible,
that
because at one point Higgins was holding out, and now Chase is holding out. That's...
So the Bengals are going to have to strike something quickly before Sunday comes around.
Yes.
But look, I mean, who knows? But the Bengals could have a bounce back year. It depends on those 2 things.
Yes.
Especially Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow's hurt again, there's no way they're having a bounce back season.
Yep. And 2 teams I want to speed through because, look, I'm not 100% sure that they're going to be great teams, but I am curious on your opinions on them before we get into the week 1 games, because there were so many changes to these teams. First off, I don't necessarily trust Will Levis, but when it comes to Tennessee, you did lose Derrick Henry, but then you got Tony Pollard. You also added in Calvin Ridley. With the Bears, obviously Justin Fields is gone. You added in Caleb Williams, and you added in DeAndre Swift and Keenan Allen. Do you think either of those teams might be better this year?
Now, these are 2 teams I think in somewhat of a similar spot. And what I mean by that is that they've improved. They've got their young quarterback. They've got fresh faces. They've got veteran players to help with the new guy who's calling plays. For Chicago, I'll start there. Caleb Williams had a phenomenal preseason. And honestly, I still think they should have kept Justin Fields. But regardless on what they do this year, Caleb Williams should have a good season. And if Caleb Williams has a good enough year, especially to win the Rookie of the Year award, then the Justin Fields moves doesn't make a big difference. I think for the Bears, Justin Fields won them 6-7 games last year. Caleb Williams has to do the same thing. And I think it's possible. Now, I don't know the whole full crux of their schedule, to be honest with you, but Obviously, when you play the Vikings twice, the Packers twice, and the Lions
Not
twice, that's going to
necessarily
be
easy.
challenging to grab
Yeah.
7 wins.
Yeah.
But if Chicago wins 5 to 6 games, maybe even 4 depending on the schedule, it's still a successful season for the Bears where again they're not going to make the playoffs, but to see Caleb Williams grow in year 1 after a really good preseason, I think that could help Chicago for sure in
Yes.
the long run. I mean, I saw the first preseason game he played. He was unbelievable
Yep.
against Cincinnati. He tore up that defense. And guaranteed he didn't throw a touchdown pass, but he was able to lead a probably 10-play drive and finish it off with I think a 10-yard rushing touchdown,
Yep.
something like that, where he broke through a couple tackles, stayed on his feet, and was able to find the end zone. It was beyond impressive to see.
Yep.
So I think you're going to see lots of growth from the Bears. Not enough to make the playoffs, but I think you'll see growth for sure.
Yeah.
For Tennessee, I think the same thing. I think getting Tony Pollard is a great replacement for
Yeah.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I think bringing in Calvin Ridley, who's trying to bounce back after
Yeah.
his whole gambling scandal last year.
Yeah.
I think that's a great move. But it all revolves around how Will Levis plays. He looked good versus the Falcons in his debut,
Yeah.
and then from there was kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
I think they're in the same spot where they can win 4, 5, 6 games. If Will Levis is good enough, if he's more better than average, I think he can be promising. It depends on how he plays. I think that will play a massive factor on where Tennessee goes this year, how they do. I don't see them winning the division. I don't see them making the postseason. Yeah. But if you get a really good year from Will Levis where his completion percentage is well above the somewhat above rather the league average. He's throwing more touchdowns than picks. He's having game-winning drives. If he has at least a 2,000-yard passing season, I think that's a good spot for him. On top of the fact where, again, you bring in Tony Pollard, you bring in Calvin Ridley.
Look, both
and
these
those
teams
are really
have the
good veteran
receivers now.
pieces.
Yeah. Both these teams have
Right.
that.
Well, I mean, again, you bring in more veteran pieces to help these young quarterbacks. For Tennessee, Will Levis. For Chicago, Caleb Williams. And for Chicago, again, you mentioned Swift. They're bringing Keenan Allen. They still got DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, who they drafted from Washington 9th overall. He's going to be a really cool player to play with Caleb Williams. So you've got those top 10 picks right there, who honestly both had great preseasons for Chicago. So I think that could be a really good scenario for Chicago. Again, not postseason success or getting there, but I see them having a decent enough season where they win 5, 6 games. And honestly, if they're doing that well, they could potentially do better than the Vikings this year, which could potentially be the case because J.J. McCarthy tore his meniscus. He's done for the year.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson hopefully will be healthy. But they're banking on Sam Darnold to have a bounce back for a lifetime. This is a career-defining season for Sam Darnold this
Eventually,
year.
you're going to run out of chances, and I feel like he's getting close to that.
No, he is. And again, with J.J. McCarthy now done for the year, he's the guy they're going to rely on.
Yeah.
Because they cut Jaron Hall, which I thought was dumb. They brought in Brett Rippon as their third-string quarterback, and their backup now is Nick Mullins, who, again, has been there for a long time, but he's not starting quality. So Sam Darnold is the only thing they're banking on right now, which means it's not looking too promising for them. Now, I think they could win 6 games. They could win 7 games. If they do that, they'll do better than Chicago. If they struggle and somehow Chicago wins both of those games, and then things don't look pretty towards the end of the season for the Vikings, then the Vikings could finish in last. And that could play a difference in December because on December 16th, the Bears and Vikings play each other. So that can make a difference. So, but, those are some thoughts there.
Yep, completely agree. But now, hey, it's week 1. Let's move into these games. We actually get an amazing Thursday night football game. To kick off the season, obviously, last year's season champions, the team that came in first place in the AFC against, the AFC in season champion, and the Super Bowl champion looking to three-peat, the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you got in this game?
Well, look, you've got Ravens-Chiefs, rematch of last year's AFC title game.
That's another point,
I thought Baltimore got robbed last year, and I think Baltimore's gonna want to bounce back big time to start their season, especially since they think they are the top dog still to compete
Yep.
with Kansas City. Now, maybe that's still true, maybe that's not true. It all depends on how they do and how the Texans are able to have a good season this year. So Baltimore and Houston are in this battle for number 2 behind the Chiefs right
Yep.
now. And when you go back to last year, the Texans got slammed by Baltimore in round 2.
Yep.
But the Texans are a much different team, as is the Ravens. Now, I think it's going to be intriguing to see how it plays out because last year's first game of the year was also a very good game between the Lions and
Yep.
Chiefs. And Detroit was able to win and even pick off Pat Mahomes for a pick 6.
Yep.
So I think if Baltimore's defense does the brunt of the work like Detroit's did last year, I think the Chiefs will lose the game.
Yes.
But again, you're banking on Patrick Mahomes having a bad start. Now that's happened. It happened a lot last year, but Patrick Mahomes turned out to be the great player he is yet again come postseason time. His Super Bowl performance was unbelievable last year. He's going to ride into that in this game after winning 2 straight, knowing what's at stake this year especially, and on top of the fact, Pat Mahomes in training camp, what have you, is still doing his magic tricks. I mean, he's unbelievable.
And they got rid of that trash can Kadarius Toney.
Well, yeah, exactly. but look, it's going to be a really good game to kick off the year. I think KC wins again. I think they'll win by a touchdown. Whether it's 17-10 again, whether it's 24-17, 31-24, whatever it is, I think KC wins by 7. But Baltimore's going to have to look really good. I think they will look good. But yet again, the difference last year was Mahomes, Mahomes, of course, in the clutch. But at the same time, the difference was the Chiefs' defense, especially that front 7. Chris Jones is a monster. He is going to have a field day against Lamar Jackson if Baltimore's O-line does not play well. So it all depends on how Chris Jones does and whether Pat Mahomes can still be Pat Mahomes, which he still is and will be. And it just depends on how Pat Mahomes starts his season this year.
Yep.
So I think KC will do well raising that Lombardi trophy again. That banner going up for the 2nd straight year, their 4th in franchise history. Arrowhead's going to be rocking.
Yep.
Arrowhead's not easy to play at to begin with if you're the road team. So I think the Chiefs are going to win by a touchdown.
Yep. I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. Look, I feel like that's the Chiefs thing. I feel like they just typically look they start off strong. I feel like last year obviously the exception, but dude, Pat Mahomes just always figures out a way to pull something out. I really feel that way. I feel like Patty Mahomes always does. I do expect a bounce back year from Kelce. Last year really was not a great year for Travis Kelce in my opinion on the field. He definitely had some drops. He had some struggles last year on the field, so I think he'll be back to his usual self this year. Hopefully we see a lot less Taylor Swift this year.
That's not promised. I mean, look, honestly, Taylor Swift helped him win a 2nd straight championship.
I know.
Although that kind of really, gave the NFL some good ratings. So who knows if, Taylor Swift and the league were in cahoots to have the Chiefs win that title. But anyway.
But yeah, look, I think the Ravens are going to be great too. I think it's going to be a really good game. I do think it will be. Honestly, I really wouldn't be shocked if it was within a field goal. I really would not.
Well, that's the thing. And one more thing to bring up. You're going to have the best kickers in the world playing each other on Thursday night. Harrison Butker just got paid that contract, 4 years, $25 million, much deserved. He is by far right now the best kicker in football and in the world.
Yep.
This is a guy who hit the game-winning field goal when they beat the Eagles for the.
I 100% say they're 1-2. These guys 1-2. Kickers in the
yeah. I mean, Butker's won. He hit that game-winning field goal versus Philly in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year, hit the game-tying field goal to force overtime. They of course, won in the extra period.
Yep.
And Justin Tucker's been a menace for years. I think he still has the record for the longest field goal in league history. So these are 2 guys who are just the best kickers, 1 and 2 exactly, like you said, in the league. Where again, it could be a touchdown, or it could be a long 50-yard plus field goal to win the game for either squad.
Yep. I don't see this being a blowout. It's going to be a very, very close
Not at
game.
all. Yep,
But
exactly.
I will 100% go Chiefs. Moving on to the Brazil game, I know it's a game that you're probably really excited for. Obviously, your
I am
Packers.
because the Packers are playing, but why are they playing in Brazil? I just don't
Yeah,
know why. I
yeah.
mean, you're better off playing at freaking Stop and Shop in Massapequa at this point. I mean, it's absurd, but
A little
continue.
parking lot brawl of a football game.
Ugh.
But yeah, yeah, Packers versus Eagles. What are your thoughts on this game? Obviously, as a Packers fan, besides the fact that you obviously don't like it being in Brazil.
So I'm not thrilled about Brazil. That's number one because if they wear green, which both teams happen to wear green, someone's getting shot. That's number one. Number two is I love Jordan Love. I have accepted the fact that Jordan Love is the quarterback. He is the man. He's the future. Even though I'm wearing my Aaron Rodgers jersey
Yeah,
right now, but I still love Jordan Love. I still have to buy my Love jersey.
yeah,
But the point is that he's awesome. And I think it's going to be a really good game to see where these two young quarterbacks start. Jordan Love, second year starting. How is he going to, continue his success? Jalen Hurts for Philadelphia 2 years ago could have been the MVP of the league. Was 3 points away from winning the Super Bowl. Last year had a really down season, banged up with a whole bunch of injuries too.
yep,
So how are these two guys going to sort of rewrite or continue the trends that they had last year? That's
yes,
the big question going in. Can Jordan Love keep it going to start off the season
yeah,
against a team that 2 years ago was in the Super Bowl? Can Jalen Hurts get back to his top peak performance level like it was 2 years ago when Philly was in the big
yep,
game? And also, what is the relationship between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, the head coach for Philly, going to look like in week one? Because that relationship was really strained last year and
yes,
has been somewhat strained still during the offseason and this preseason.
yeah,
So it's more of a question for how Philly's going to do than Green Bay. Because the Packers, there's lots of hype on Jordan Love. There's lots of hype on this young team. Defense looks good. New kicker in Greg Joseph. So there's some fresh face. There's still lots of higher expectations after the
yes,
year that was last year, especially towards the end. There's lots going in for Jordan Love on top of that and the massive contract he just got paid. So that's
yes,
one. But it's more on Philly because Philly last year was 10-1, lost 5 of 6 to end the regular season, got blown up by Tampa
yes,
in the wild card round. Are the Eagles still a solid contender?
yeah,
Are they able to play against another potential solid contender in the Packers to begin their season? Those are the questions going in. And for Philly, there's more at stake for them on how they begin their season compared to the Packers. Because
yes,
regardless, it's a challenging game for both teams, not just because it's in South America, but because these are two top teams in the league fighting
yes,
for their respective, poise in the NFC. In a very
yeah,
competitive NFC, where it's these two teams, San Francisco, Detroit, Tampa, somewhat the Rams too.
yes,
So you've got all these teams bouncing around in a very competitive conference.
yes,
So for these two teams to start off against each other the way they are is going to be important.
yes,
Now, I hope the Packers win, and I think they will win. Because I think Jordan Love has more confidence going in some regard than Jalen Hurts. He's confident too, don't get me wrong, but I think Jordan Love feels really good after the year he had, the contract he just got, and on top of the fact, 3 snaps into preseason, final snap of the preseason, he throws a 65-yard
yep,
dime to his pal Dontavian Wicks. So he's going to really get the gel more with his core, his receiving core, in guys like Wicks and Romeo Dobbs, maybe even Malik Heath, maybe
yep,
someone like Bo Melton. It's going to be intriguing to see how he builds his relationship further with those young guys.
yes,
Now, guaranteed, AJ Dillon's out for the year, unfortunately, with an injury, but they brought in Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. And I think he's going to be a really good veteran running back piece to fill the hole for Dillon, on top of the fact that he and Love are also going to have a really unique
yep,
relationship, like how Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones had, like how Aaron Rodgers and James Starks had, you know.
Yes, yeah,
So it's going to be really intriguing to see how that relationship kind of builds as well. So the Packers look really good going in, and I think they're going to win by
yeah.
7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I'm actually completely on board with you that I do got the Packers in this game. I love the Josh Jacobs move. I feel like,
Yeah,
look, Aaron Jones was a huge piece of that team for a while, but look,
he couldn't
running
stay
backs,
healthy,
it's
man.
known they have the shortest lifespan in the NFL out of all positions. He's hitting that age. Obviously, he's getting injured a lot as well. So it
Yeah,
was honestly time to move on. You guys
yes, it
got
was.
somebody, in my opinion, who currently is much better than he is, and keep in mind he was doing what he was doing on a bad Raiders team. Um,
Yeah,
so I really like that move. I think there's a lot of confidence there. You guys completely exceeded expectations last year. Despite even though
yeah.
you guys blew that game technically to the Niners, that was not your guys' fault. That was obviously Carlson.
Well,
Look,
look,
there's
yeah,
no reason to
look,
not be
yeah.
confident. The Eagles, on the other hand, had a rough, very rough end to the season, and then
Mm-hmm.
lost in the first game of the playoffs. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see there being a lot of confidence there. I really think you guys start off very, very strong here, and you guys win. This is another game. I do think it's going to be a close game. I really do.
Oh yeah.
But you guys do win. Again, this wouldn't shock me if it's another game within 7.
Well, I mean, again, it's going to be close for sure. But again, there's a lot more at stake for how the Eagles begin than the Packers do.
Yes.
If the Packers lose a close game, sure, it will sting, but it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
If Philly loses close, same thing. But if Philly gets blown out somehow, then we're really questioning, okay, where are the Eagles at? Are they still somewhat a contender? Now,
Yeah.
again, it's only week one, but you bring those questions in to see what could this season look like for the Eagles after such a rough start, hypothetically.
Yeah.
So who knows? But no, I feel confident about the Packers. Again, I love Jordan Love. I'm loving the receiving core. Josh Jacobs bringing him in was an awesome move. It was time to move on from Aaron Jones. I like him a lot, but he couldn't stay healthy. And once Rodgers left, you knew some of that old gang was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
leave anyway. And Aaron Jones had to go eventually because of the health concerns and also the fact that, things weren't working out. And also, they paid him a 4-year contract extension a couple of years ago. And of course, he got banged up too much to actually prove his worth. So
Yep.
they had to move on. And Josh Jacobs wanted to leave Vegas. It was a perfect fit for him to come to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Young running back, young quarterback, young receivers, young dynamic team with lots of talent. They look really good. And again, Jason, they shocked last year. They're going to shock more in
I
2024.
completely agree. I really agree with that. And I hope you guys do win this game. So the next game I want to get into is a bit of a doozy. Um, we got the Panthers versus the Saints. What do you got here? It is a division matchup, so there is a little importance to this. But let's get
Do we
into this game.
really have to talk about this crummy game?
Sadly, we do, out
All
of
right,
respect for
Jason.
everybody.
All right, fine. Okay, look, I mean, Carolina sucks. We know that. Bryce Young, quarterback, but the Panthers suck.
Yeah.
The Saints, they could be competitive again, but they always disappoint you. Derek Carr has been just beyond disappointing ever since getting to New Orleans,
Yeah.
and it's not been fun to watch them. So I think to move this along to actually talk about that matter and people and games that people actually care about, because if people watch this game for 5 minutes, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
I think the Saints win, maybe by 14 points, maybe by 21 points. They could win 38-0. Who knows? But the Saints win by double digits, in my opinion, and it's gonna be a long season again for both of these teams.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think Bryce Young will be a little bit better, or do you think he's just not good? I'm just curious on your
Well,
opinion.
look, it's not Bryce Young that's the problem. It's
Yeah,
the pieces around Bryce
true.
Young. The offensive line is horrific.
It's
He's got
really
some
only
receivers.
it's only him and Thielen, really. I mean,
Well, yeah, exactly. He's got Adam Thielen, which makes him look good. But the problem is that Bryce Young's got no help,
yeah,
and the Panthers are just a train wreck. They're just a train wreck organization, lousy ownership. I mean, the amount of coaches they've gone through in the past couple of years is ridiculous.
yeah,
I mean, they've gone through more coaches than the amount of gut checks Big Show's had. So it really tells you a lot about how
Yeah.
many coaches they've gone through. Um, that's that. And on top of the fact their defense sucks.
Yes.
So look, I mean, again, it's not gonna be good for the Panthers. It's gonna be a bad year. Saints, maybe they'll be okay, but
They'll
compared to what
certainly be
we get
better than the
from
Panthers.
oh, for sure, but that doesn't say much. I mean, Saints could have a winning record, but if Atlanta and
Yeah.
Tampa are good, like we think they're going to be,
Yeah.
and it'll be a dogfight between those two teams
Yeah.
for the top seed in the division, then then the Saints are somewhat not that competitive, not relevant again
Yeah.
this year.
You
So
know.
Saints win this game, but whatever happens is telling of both teams.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna go Saints. The only thing about them for this year, Kamara's taking a step back. That's just the honest truth.
And he might be on the trade block.
Yes.
So if
Um.
if they trade him, then that tells you the direction they're really going this year.
Yes. And then I don't you you never know the status of Michael Thomas. You really don't. I don't even
It's
know.
it's it's been like that for years.
Yeah, you never know.
And
So.
and again, Derek Carr is someone there where he'll have glimpses and then he'll struggle and then he gets
It's
hurt
been his whole
and then
career. It's his whole
yeah.
career. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And then Taysom Hill gets in, and then Johnny B. Good, Johnny B. Good comes in to play quarterback, and then freaking the guy from Timbuktu plays. I mean, it's a
Yeah, yeah.
whole scenario.
And then somehow Jameis Winston ends up in there, like yeah,
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 right.
yeah. But yeah, look, I go Saints in this game. There's really not much to talk about here, besides the fact that it's a division game. Let's
Right.
move on. Obviously, this is a game that's kind of important to you because of where you live now, and you are going to be covering the Minnesota teams. We got the Vikings
Yeah.
against the Giants. What do you got in this one?
So I think what this game will decide where both teams go.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings win. I do. I think they win not because they're the better team, but I think Daniel Jones is going to be a cancer this year for the Giants. And he's had a horrible preseason. He'll start week 1, but at the same time, you look at the Vikings, and sure, it's Sam Darnold there, but we don't know what we're getting yet from Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And for someone who's actually covered Vikings, well, not really covered too much, but covered somewhat of the Vikings this year, during preseason, what have you, Sam Darnold's looked actually somewhat good. Now
Yeah.
he hasn't been great. He didn't play too great in the preseason game he was in, but from what I've heard at training camp, from what I've heard during OTAs, he's looked pretty good. And he's
Yep.
built somewhat of a good connection with Justin Jefferson, which is what they need.
Yes.
So I think if you see that, if Darnold plays a good enough game and Justin Jefferson carries the load like he has for the past couple of years he's been there, I think the Vikings are going to win. The Giants, on the other hand, have their receiver. Malik Neighbors is going to be great. The
Yeah.
defense has improved. The offensive line is still kind of back and forth, but Daniel Jones is just not good.
Yeah.
So it's really a battle of crummy quarterbacks, but it depends on how the receivers and surrounding pieces do around them. I think for the Vikings, you look at someone like Jefferson, I think he could carry Sam Darnold to a win on
Yeah.
Sunday. Jordan Addison might not play. He's banged up with a ankle injury.
Yeah.
At the same time, he could face a 3-game suspension or so for an offseason DUI incident in California. So the Vikings are coming in with lots of questions. Also, keep in mind, the Vikings have had a really rough preseason so far.
Yeah.
Now, the 3-0, that's the good part. The bad part is the injuries.
Yes.
J.J. McCarthy, torn meniscus, done for the year. They've had so many guys banged up before the preseason, during training camp. Second day of training camp, their second-year star quarterback, Mekhi Blackman, tore his ACL, done for the year.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their fourth-round pick, Kyrie Jackson, who was a great quarterback in college at the University of Oregon, tragically died in a car crash in July.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad. So the Vikings have been hit pretty hard with injuries and off the field incidents and what have you, this offseason dating back to July,
Yeah.
which is OTAs, training camp, preseason. So they've been really hurting in those areas, but they've made lots of signings to make up for it. Stephon Gilmore is
Yep.
there now. Fabian Morneau is there now. Those are two really good veteran cornerbacks to replace Jackson, to replace Blackman. Those young players who were supposed to be big things for this year, and Blackman, of course, is done for the year because of the torn ACL. So, the Vikings could have a good year. They could win 7 games. They could win 9 games. They could win 4. So they're a team where you're not sure what you're getting exactly. But I think for this first game, I think they'll win, and I think they'll win based off their special teams because
Yeah.
Will Riker, their rookie kicker from Alabama, has had an amazing
Yep.
preseason, and the Vikings won 26-3 over the Eagles in their last preseason game for the third straight win. So the Vikings were 3-0 this preseason.
Yep.
Really good preseason despite the injuries. Will Riker in that last game went 4 for 4, and his longest field goal was a 57-yarder.
Wow.
So this is a rookie kicker from the University of Alabama who was drafted, I think, the 4th or 5th rounds. And this is a guy who could really play a difference in these close games where Greg Joseph was that guy last year. He left. He's now with the Packers. Will Reichard's their rookie to look out for now since J.J. McCarthy's injured.
Yep.
So I think if it comes down to a field goal, which it could, and what could be a back and forth game, either with poor offense or really poor defense,
Meh.
I think Will Reichard's leg could make the difference, and that's why I think the Vikings win versus the Giants.
Yep. Look, I do think I agree. This is a game. I feel like that could go either way, just because I feel like either team could crap out. I really feel that way.
Oh, sure, sure.
Obviously, look for the Giants. You finally got that receiver, but the quarterback's the issue again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You did lose Barkley, which is a heartbreaker and 10 times worse because he went to the Eagles.
Right.
Which we'll talk about when, more about at some point while we're going on here. Just because, look, I feel like even though we already discussed the Eagles, we do got to discuss some of those big acquisitions that happened throughout the league.
True.
Little
That's true.
things. But look, I do. They did replace him with Devin Singletary, which is a decent move. He's no Barkley, but at least he stays healthy consistently. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like Barkley
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of problems staying healthy. I feel like every year he misses games because of some sort of injury.
And it,
Um,
and it doesn't help now that he's playing for an Eagles team that always gets hurt.
yes,
Their offensive line's a mess every year with injuries. Same thing with their D line.
yeah,
And sort of to piggyback off that point about maybe talking about the Eagles a bit more, I mean, Barkley could play a factor, especially if Hurts struggles.
yes,
So the Packers' run game is going to have to definitely be on their tip top shape, and that's going to help with a strong player again back like Kenny Clark. He's been
yeah,
awesome for the Packers. So I think even with Barkley back there, I think that the Packers could still find a way to win
yeah,
with the red hot offense. And again, if Barkley gets injured again, well, there you go. If Jalen Hurts struggles, well, there you go again. But
yeah,
but anyway, the point is that you know you're exactly right about the Giants here, where this could be sort of a two-way street type of thing, where you could see really good defense, better O
yeah,
line game, solid receivers, run game with Singletary now, what have you, but Daniel Jones sucks.
yeah,
So you're not sure. And the thing is, the Vikings defense is not great, but it's not
yes,
awful, you know?
yeah,
And the secondary has gotten better now with Stephon Gilmore, with Fabian Morneau
yeah,
being there as some of those top corners. We've also got Harrison Smith back for another great year. He's a
yes,
great veteran linebacker. So the
yeah,
Vikings have their, the veteran pieces on defense still there.
yeah,
And despite the offensive struggles last year for the Vikings, the defense was consistently around.
yes.
So we'll see.
Obviously, Vikings had some moves. They were the ones who picked up Aaron Jones from you guys. The
Yep.
Giants, obviously, huge pickup with Brian Burns. I think that is going to be an amazing pickup. Obviously, Darren Waller retired. He's gone, which means Ballinger's back to being the number one tight end there. Singletary, I do think will be good for the Giants. I do like Hyatt as a receiver. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's finally going to have his year where he steps up a little bit.
Yeah.
He's shown signs of it. Just health at times has been a problem.
Uh huh.
So look, I I do think the Giants, look, they're not going to be good, but like I said, I don't think this will be a blowout either. I think this will be a close special teams kind of game. I feel like.
Yep. Yeah.
Um.
And
So
again, look, I mean, you've got the rookie and Will Reichert for the Vikings, and then you've got the veteran kicker for the Giants and Graham Gano.
yeah,
So it could be a kick fest, maybe
it's
if it
very
happens to go
possible.
down to
Very
that.
possible. Yes. Um. But moving on to a game which is going to be, I feel like a little interesting just because I don't actually mind Jacoby Brissett. So I'm not a guy who definitely like thinks he's really horrible. We got the Patriots and
Mhm.
Jacoby Brissett against the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously in a spot where we don't know what's going on with Jamar Chase yet. And Joe Mixon's gone from
Yeah,
Cincinnati too. So
right.
what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, look, I mean, again, you've got a situation where you're not sure about Chase, but you do know right now that Joe Burrow's healthy.
Yes.
That's more important. Now, it stings. It's frustrating that Jamar Chase is sort of on the fence. Don't get me wrong. That's a problem. I'm not downplaying that. But your main concern is the health of Joe Burrow.
Yes.
That's your main concern going into this game against a Patriots team having a fiasco of losing Matthew Judon this offseason.
Yep.
A fiasco of losing Mac Jones, trading him away, drafting Drake May. He's not even the starter.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett comes back and wins that job. And you're in a spot where the Patriots could have had Marvin Harrison Jr., but they go for Drake May.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people in that New England camp and fans who aren't too thrilled with the fact that they took Drake May to begin with.
Yeah.
So there are lots of people that Drake May is going to have to win over. And right now, the fact that he's not starting
Does
could be a
not
good
help.
thing,
It doesn't help his
but
odds
it
right.
does not help at the same time.
Yeah.
Exactly. It could be good that he's waiting. Brady waited, Rodgers waited, Jordan Love waited, Brett Favre waited. Uh, so many guys have waited.
Yeah.
That could be a blessing in disguise for JJ McCarthy. He was probably going to wait anyway this year. Now that he's hurt, he's definitely going to have to wait. So you look at someone like this for Drake May, where it could work out, but for right now, things aren't promising for the Patriots. So
No.
for the Bengals, it's good to have this Week 1 tune-up game against a team like New England, where their defense has been shambles the past couple of years. Last year wasn't fun to watch that defense.
Yeah.
And on top of the fact, now that Matthew Judon left the way he did, he got traded to Atlanta, and the whole debacle about maybe he's staying, maybe he's not staying, he wants to stay, he wants to leave.
Yeah.
It was a whole mess. He got shipped away. So I think the Bengals win this game convincingly, maybe by 14, 21 points, by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns. Because I think the Patriots defense could be burnt out by the third quarter. And
possible.
if Brissett struggles, then that doesn't help. Keep in mind Bailey Zappi's not there no more.
Yeah.
So if Brissett gets injured, God forbid, in Week 1, guess who's coming in? Drake May.
Yep.
So that's not going to help his cause on how he would have to come in potentially to replace an injured quarterback, if that were to be the case, of course. But again, things don't look promising for the Patriots overall this year.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good start game for the Bengals, even if they don't have Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And I think they'll find a way to win it.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be so weird watching a Patriots game without Belichick.
Yeah, that's true.
But
well, I mean that's actually the thing too. There a little bit where it's good that they moved on from Belichick, which was a good move for them at the time. Gerard Mayo's has lots of big shoes to fill for sure. Yeah. But if he's not able to get this on board the right way the past few weeks, then you sort of in a similar spot that it was last year.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you lose games again 34-0, 36-3, you're losing by 30 points several weeks, not maybe consecutively, but over the season. That's not a good look for a first-year head coach who they put the trust in to replace Bill Belichick.
Yeah, which says a lot. Replacing the man who won 6 championships there says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, look, I'm gonna go Bengals in this one, whether Chase plays or not. I'm gonna be honest.
Right.
I do think they win this game. As you said, this might be the first game we've talked about that I do think it will be a little bit more of a difference in score. I don't want to say blowout, but it's not going to be as close as the other games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, you would hope that you don't see a 34-0 shutout like how they lost to the Saints last year
Yeah,
that way. But you could see like a 28-7 game or a 21-7 or
yeah,
28-10, whatever.
yeah.
Something along those lines.
And it's a shame because I actually don't hate Brissett. I actually like Brissett. I just feel like he doesn't have
He's
help
Well,
again.
look. Well, I mean, the problem is that the Patriots don't have a good offense to begin with,
Yeah,
so that doesn't help their cause. And the receivers are Crumbum 1, Crumbum 2, and Crumbum 3.
yeah,
So it doesn't really help his cause.
yeah.
And the offensive line has been kind of shaky the past couple of years. So you're getting, again, a situation where they're going to have to rely on their defense, which they've been doing that for years since Brady left. But at the same time, their defense also is inconsistent, and their defense isn't that
Yes.
great, especially in recent years. So the point is that it's not going to be a good year for New England, and they're probably going to come in last.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with that. But yeah, Bengals win this. Patriots, I do definitely agree they struggle. Moving on to our next game, I feel like it's a team that it's a game of teams that like definitely have question marks because a few of them we got to see what they do. I feel like Russell Wilson really needs to prove himself early, or he might find himself on the bench. And Kirk Cousins wants to lead the Falcons to a good year. We got the Steelers and Falcons. What do you got in this one?
Well, look, I mean, this is going to be a big game for both teams because we see Kirk Cousins. What is he going to do with the Falcons? The fact that they signed Falcons and then draft Michael Penix ninth overall was a massive question mark.
Yeah.
And then you also have the Pittsburgh Steelers with somewhat of a similar situation where they signed Russell Wilson and trade for Justin Fields, and Fields is not starting. So where do you go in this spot where two veteran quarterbacks are trying to revive their careers while two young quarterbacks are trying to find their place? And I think Atlanta wins because there's more higher expectations for them this year.
Yes.
There's a lot more on Cousins than Wilson. And for the Falcons, despite Tampa Bay being their main competitor, it's another year of a wide open South division in the NFC. So I think the Falcons win. The Steelers are going to have to really see what Russell Wilson's made of now. If he struggles, question marks come up again.
Yep.
If the defense can't hold on, those come up too. And honestly, if Russ struggles not just now, but if he struggles the first couple of weeks, like I said before, then we could see Justin Fields faster than we think.
Yes.
And for Kirk Cousins, he comes here on this 4-year deal, coming off a torn Achilles. There's a lot for him to prove.
Yep.
Can he still be a solid starting quarterback with these somewhat better offensive pieces? He's got Kyle Pitts. He's got Bijan Robinson. He's got a pretty decent O-line. So can he do it with Atlanta and lead a team that's been rebuilding the past couple of years to a postseason berth? Can that happen? We'll have to find out. If it doesn't, or if he gets hurt again, God forbid, then we see Michael Penix faster than we think.
Yes.
And again, this could be a spot where if Cousins struggles or gets hurt, here comes Penix.
Yep.
If Wilson just struggles to begin with, here comes Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So these are
two
two
interesting
similar
spots.
teams.
Yeah.
Yes, two similar teams with two very unique QB situations. And I think the Falcons win this week because they're in the better spot than Pittsburgh is overall.
Yes.
On top of the fact that, sure, Tampa Bay is the team to compete with, the Falcons have a better chance that competing with Tampa Bay and maybe the Rams for a wild card spot, division spot, whatever, than the Steelers do with Baltimore, with Cincinnati, with Houston, maybe a team like the Colts or Jaguars, potentially, depending on how they do this season. The Dolphins as well. I can't believe I forgot about Tua and the massive contract he just got. So the Steelers are in a much more difficult spot to compete for a playoff spot than the Falcons are either making the playoffs or winning their division.
Yes. Look, for me, I 100% am going the Falcons. I actually finally think because of Kirk Cousins, this is actually going to be the breakout year people have been waiting on with Drake London. I think he's going to finally have a good year. I
Yeah,
really agree with that.
yeah.
Look, the other thing, and I just because we got to the Steelers, the other thing I forgot about, and this was going back to Carolina briefly here. We were talking about how they have no help. I completely just completely did not cross my mind that Deontay Johnson is now a Panther.
Well, that didn't cross my mind either. But also keep in mind, Carolina still is in a similar situation than they were last year.
I completely
Now,
agree.
Deontay Johnson might give him some relief, and that could help somewhat. But is that going to make a difference? I don't
No,
think
I'm
so.
not. I'm not saying it's going to help them, but it makes it even harder for Wilson or Fields because now they really only have George Pickens and Fryermuth.
True,
They don't really have
true.
receivers to get them.
And look, and the thing is, Fields was in somewhat of a similar situation though in Chicago.
Yeah,
So for Fields, there is more promise in that
yeah,
circumstance because Fields had DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, they were good, but a lot of their players got banged up last year, and also Justin Fields the year before with a 4-win team with DJ Moore and some other scrubs, he was able to really make them somewhat interesting.
yeah,
So Justin Fields has been in a spot before where he's had little to nothing to work with. Russell Wilson has two, but Russell Wilson's not the same player, obviously.
yeah.
And Russell Wilson had Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton in Denver and couldn't do jack
Yeah.
squat with that.
No, yeah, 100%. That was just something I wanted to mention because I can't believe we both forgot Deontay Johnson's gone from there.
Yeah.
Uh, but moving on, a game that is very exciting, a great 1 o'clock window game, a huge divisional matchup. C.J. Stroud against Anthony Richardson and the Colts. That should be an unbelievable game.
That
What do
would
you
be a
think, Onion?
really good matchup between two young stars. But here's the deal. CJ Stroud knows how to beat the Colts. CJ Stroud knows that the Colts gave up more than 30 points on a consistent basis at home
Yep.
last year. And the Texans are a much better team this year than they were last year. Last
Yeah.
year was a shock with how good they were.
Yeah.
Now there are actually expectations to exceed and reach
Yeah.
for Houston. They're going to blow Indy out of the building.
I mean, look,
I think they
I'm
put up
going to
30
sorry to
points.
cut you up, but me and you even talked about it last year that it would be a win if they had 5 or 6 wins last year, the Texans, and look what they did.
No, yeah. No, well, I mean, Jason, they had 10.
Yeah.
They had 10 wins, and they beat the Colts in the final week of the regular season to make the playoffs in the Colts building.
Yeah.
So mind you, they know how to beat them. They know how to start strong against them, and they know the Colts gave up a lot of points and blew a lot of home games last year. So I think the Texans are going to steamroll them. Maybe by 20 points, maybe 30 points. I think they're going to steamroll them. Or maybe we see the opposite. We see a shootout. We see Anthony Richardson healthy. We see him play good, but not good enough to win the game because the Texans' offense is so much better that the Colts defense can't keep up to begin with.
Yep.
So anyway, regardless, Houston wins this game. Regardless.
Yeah.
But how is Anthony Richardson going to do following the injury? That's the main question. CJ Stroud's going to ball out. He's going to be so close with Stephon Diggs, before you know it.
Yeah.
It's going to be like two peas in a pod. That's how good
I will
they're
tell
going to
you. I
connect
will
so
say this
quickly.
to you, kind of branching off that. I don't know if you saw it, but it was an issue that Diggs had with Allen towards the end of that run. There was already an issue in the preseason with the two of them arguing. I will say that.
Yes. But Stroud's a young guy. Diggs is a veteran.
Yeah.
And Diggs is in a whole new scenario to begin with. So there's a lot that he's going to have to learn. There's also a lot for Stroud to realize, okay, this is a guy who's a veteran player who's played with top elite quarterbacks throughout his career. And we're a team this year that has a lot of bigger expectations who could maybe be better than the Chiefs this season, who could compete with them at least. I think he's going to realize, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But also, Stefan's going to realize, okay, new setting, new situation. This guy's a quarterback, young quarterback. Let me help him out. Let's build something.
Yes.
So I think they're looking more at the long term than this little, fussy argument they had a couple weeks ago. So I think with that in mind, you go with the Texans.
Yeah.
And again, Richardson's going to be good, but he's got to be healthy.
Yes.
That's a big question. At the same time, the Colts defense is lousy, and when you have a really good Texans offense, then the Colts are no match.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100% going Texans here. You add in Joe Mixon to what was already a great
Mm-hmm.
offense. Tank Dell's back. You got Stephon Diggs. Dalton
Yeah,
Schultz is still there. Nico Collins.
yeah,
Like, that is an
yeah.
incredible, incredible offense.
It's good.
Um, you know, correct me if I'm missing anybody, but obviously there's a lot of question marks behind Anthony Richardson, and then behind him, you really only got Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman.
Right. And again, if Richardson's healthy, then what does that QB situation look like if he gets hurt again?
Yeah, because Minshew's gone. I don't know who's even behind him.
Then Sam Ellinger maybe still.
Oh, if that is the case, that's a rough one. Um,
Yeah.
but look, that's a big question mark. He got banged up a couple times last year before he was officially done for the season. So
Week 4, Jason. He was done by week 4.
yeah, and he got injured. Remember, I think he was out of a game because he was getting checked for a concussion.
I think it was his first game
I
too.
think there was a concussion issue. Yeah, so
Yep. Mm-hmm.
we'll see. That's a big question mark. I am gonna go the Texans. And I don't think it's a shootout. I do think it's a pretty, pretty wide margin in the score. Yeah, I don't think the Colts are gonna be able to keep up at all. We move on to a game though that is really interesting because you said this is one of your teams that you think is gonna take a step back, and it's the much anticipated debut of Marvin Harrison Jr. We got the Cardinals and the Bills. What do you got here?
Well, look, Arizona's a team that is still in that rebuild mode. They're not going anywhere this year.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison's going to be fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. Him and Kyler slinging it out will be awesome. But yet again, their defense is terrible. They'll give up so many points.
Yeah.
The Bills win this game. But the Bills come in again with really lots of questions.
Yes.
What does the makeup look like? Are the players on board? What's going on with the fact that they started that the starters played a good portion of the preseason?
Yeah.
Is Josh Allen confident entering this year? Is there a riffraff potentially between him and Sean McDermott? Like, what's going on?
Yes.
And without Stephon Diggs, the fact that he left the way he did, was traded like that, what does that say about the direction they're going in?
Yes.
Are they starting to realize, all right, we've competed for a couple of years. We've been in the spotlight, but we haven't been able to reach the spotlight.
Yeah.
At the same time. So it's sort of that thing. I think this is an easy tune-up game for Buffalo. I think they're going to win this game. Because, again, it's a tune-up. This is a good week 1 game for them to really get something started and to get their feet wet this year. But after that, what is this team going to, formulate into? With injuries and, with the injuries playing a factor, with a really struggling defense coming in, with Josh Allen kind of on his heels a little bit, without Stephon Diggs, where are the Bills in the long picture? They win this game, but this game could be telling enough to say, all right, where are they against better teams?
Yes.
They can win this game, but if they struggle in this game, that could be telling on what we see all year long potentially from the Bills.
Yeah. Look, I feel like there's not too much to say. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I do like that Trey McBride kid, the tight end they got. James Conner. I do like him still. But
he gets hurt a lot too.
Yes, yeah. But I don't think there was any question on the fact that the Bills, despite the fact that they're going to take a step back, they are going to win this game. I wouldn't be shocked if this might somehow be one of those blowout games. I really wouldn't. I like Kyler. I like some of those guys over there, but I don't see them keeping up with the Bills and Josh Allen. There's really not too much to say. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add in or if you want to go on.
Well, look, I mean, again, they could get blown out, or because of Buffalo struggles, if they're not on the same page in the first game of the season, Arizona might not win, but they could make it closer than you think.
Yeah.
So it's sort of one of those two-sided coin situations where you could see the blowout win by Buffalo, or again, you see a win by Buffalo, but not by much. And
Yeah.
again, it's still the Bills struggling to reach the finish line,
Yes.
struggling to grab a win against a team that's going nowhere this year.
Yep.
So again, you're getting one of those two situations this weekend. If you have the third where the Cardinals win by some fashion, then that's really a problem for the Bills.
Yes.
So regardless, I think the Bills win this game. I think it's not going to be a pretty game. I think it's not going to be the most convincing win, but I think you'll see a game where they win, they get some kinks out, they sort of, rust off the dust, and they have success, but it could be, again, some slow watering moves as well.
Yep, completely agree. Just to fill you in, by the way, we have 7 minutes left on here. We're on the second to last game now of the 1 o'clock window, just so you know. This is
Okay.
so we'll make this the last one before we just have to do a quick reset, and then we'll finish it up on
Fine.
that one. But this is actually crazy, and I did not know the schedule. This is so wild because I included them earlier together in the talk in that question. Two teams we were both briefly talking about. What are the odds of this? It is Titans Bears. That's actually crazy. I did not know that. But what are your thoughts on this one? We have 6.5 minutes.
Well, look, Jason, this could be a good matchup because, again, those two teams that we talked about before, they're in similar spots. Veterans come in, new quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. Caleb Williams starting off his career. Will Levis, we saw some glimpses of him last year. Can he be the franchise guy? That's the question for him in 2024. You could see a game where it could be a shootout. We could see a game where both kids struggle. Could see a game where it comes down to special teams, right?
Yeah.
So this could be a whole mixed bag where I think we'll see a really interesting game between two youngsters, seeing how they start to be on page with their veteran receivers, veteran running backs, the whole system around them.
Yep.
So I think, this game's a toss-up. I think Chicago wins, though. I think Chicago wins because of not because of the hype around Caleb Williams, but because I think he's going to be so good this year that against teams like the Titans, I think he'll do very well.
Those are the teams they will be able to beat, I believe, 100%.
Yes. And for Will Levis, I think he'll play well, but with how good Caleb has looked, the hype around him, and I think how well he's going to play on Sunday, I don't think Will Levis will be able to keep up with him. I don't think Will Levis will be able to keep up with the play that we would see from Caleb Williams. We will see. So I think Chicago wins. I think they win by 10 points. I think it's a close game. I think, depending on, field goals and PATs and defense stops and what have you, it really, again, these games depend on the quarterbacks, mainly on Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
If Caleb Williams struggles, the Titans win this game. If Caleb Williams plays well, then Chicago wins this game.
Games,
and they could win by
I hate to interrupt you on this, but it's so hard to pick games when it's two young quarterbacks, let alone a rookie quarterback that we haven't actually seen in regular season play. So it makes it very challenging.
Right. No, it does for sure. But you also look at these teams where they're both not playoff caliber teams.
Yeah.
You look at, the long run of what they could be. You also look at the fact in this circumstance, sure, Caleb Williams has not played in the regular season yet. This is his debut. But Will Levis has. And his debut was good. But since that debut, he's been
downhill. Yeah.
He's been good at times. And then there are times where he's been tough to watch.
To be honest, I'm going to say it now. Besides after his debut, the only really impressive moment he had was that comeback against the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, again, that shows the sort of wobbling we saw from that debut performance, where we could see a good one, and then we could see, we'll see,
Yeah.
So it's really more important to see if Will Levis can be competitive.
Yep.
Because if Caleb Williams is slinging it out there, then this game's over. If Caleb Williams has rust, if he's, has those butterflies coming, and Will Levis is able to capitalize off of that, then Tennessee could win the matchup, and they probably would. You
Yeah.
know, they probably will. So it all depends on these young quarterbacks. I think Caleb has more promise, obviously,
Yes.
but for Will Levis, again, if he plays good, we'll see. If he struggles like we saw for the most part last year, then it could be a long day for him and those Tennessee Titans.
Completely agree. So the next game I want to get into, Alex, is I think it'll be a really, really fun game. We got Trevor Lawrence against the Dolphins, Jaguars, Dolphins. What do you got on this one?
Well, this is gonna be a really intriguing matchup because both of these quarterbacks are coming into the season, pardon me, after getting paydays. Trevor Lawrence
Yes.
got a 5-year extension worth 275 mil. Tua got a 4-year extension worth 212 mil.
Yeah.
So these are two guys coming off good years, getting lots of money, and yet Jacksonville folded. Trevor Lawrence still was on his A game.
Yeah.
Tua was unbelievable last year. Led the league in passing yards at more than 30 touchdown passes.
Yep.
He was really good, and guaranteed they got killed by KC. Tua was excellent last season.
Yep.
And look, I mean, this is going to be really intriguing to see how these two quarterbacks play after getting these massive contracts. I think the Dolphins are the better team.
Yes.
I think they win. And they win because they've got that firepower with Tua and Tyreek Hill, and their defense is also really good. Jacksonville's defense collapsed a lot last year. And Mike McDaniel's proving himself more to be the right guy in Miami to be the head coach
Yep.
there, especially for Tua. Because if you heard about the comments he made a couple weeks ago about Brian Flores, he ripped Brian Flores a new one. He
Yep.
and Brian Flores did not get together. They did not have a good relationship.
Yes.
And Tua blames him for a lot of that. He called him a lousy person, attacked him for his character, what have you. Mike McDaniel has been Tua's biggest supporter. That's why he's played so well the past couple of years, especially last year. So I think the Dolphins win this game. I think Jacksonville will make it interesting. They'll make it competitive. Trevor Lawrence will play well. Tua's better. The Dolphins are better.
Yeah.
They might be competing with the Jets for that top spot this year in the AFC East. And Buffalo could be there too, but all depending on how Aaron Rodgers plays. But regardless, look, I mean, again, the Dolphins are in for a really interesting year, this year, where
Yes.
at one point they had a 4-game lead for first,
And then December
over
hit, like
Buffalo.
always. December.
And they blew it.
Every year, December, it collapses for them.
Yeah. But in September, they start well, and I think they'll start well versus Jacksonville.
Yes.
They'll win this game.
I do agree. Look, I do like Lawrence. I will say I'm one of those people, and this is why I feel like he has a lot to prove this year. I almost feel like he got a little too much, Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna be totally
Sure.
honest with you.
Sure.
So and I've heard other people say it, so he might be on a mission to prove those people wrong this year. But
Right.
I 100% agree. Tua and the Dolphins win this game as much as it pains me because I do not like the Dolphins. I really don't. Look, they're gonna be good. Hill's gonna be great. Waddle, he was a little down last year. Waddle, I think he'll get back to his usual self. I mean, he had his moments, but he definitely was not the guy, even close to the guy.
Right. Right.
I think it's gonna be another great year from Mostert. Mostert was amazing
Mhm.
last year. He was unbelievable. By far the best season he has ever had. Jaguars, I don't know what to think. I honestly would probably say it's gonna be close between them and the Colts on who's second in that division. It really will.
Sure.
I feel like the
Sure.
same thing happens every year with Jacksonville. You get excited and then they start to just collapse. But I do think
Well,
that
again,
sorry, go ahead.
no. No, I mean, again, you've seen it last year where they start somewhat strong, they play mediocre offense, lose to KC, They got blown out by San Francisco after winning 4 or 5 straight.
Yeah.
It's very up and down for
Yes.
sure. And I think they'll start with a down because Miami is a more consistent team, and the Dolphins have a lot
Yes.
more to prove this year with that new contract for Tua. They have, Jacksonville has tons to prove too with Trevor Lawrence and that deal as well. But for Tua, the contract, what he just said about Brian Flores,
He
how
needs to
he
do something good. Yeah.
not just that, he needs to find a way to win a playoff game this
Yes.
year. They got to find a way to win in the playoffs because the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in God knows how long. It's been a
Yes.
long time. I think since the 90s
Yes,
it's
and
been.
also on top of that, if they somehow get a jump start on the division, they need to figure out a way to not blow the division lead too. That is another
Yeah.
key thing.
And again, Tua was excellent last year.
Yeah.
He led the league with 4,963 passing yards.
Unreal.
First year as a starter the entire way through. He does that again, he might get 5,000 this year.
Yeah.
So Tua is really good. He's a good quarterback. It's just, can the surrounding pieces stay healthy? Can
Can
the
he stay
defense be
healthy too? Can
consistently
he
good?
stay healthy too? That's...
Yes, but you've seen that more recently than you did when he first started his career.
Yes. Yeah.
That's for sure. And part of that could be on Brian Flores, but part of it also is the sense of there was not much confidence into Tua. There wasn't support into Tua when he started. With McDaniel, it's a complete turn. There's been support. He's been healthy. He's been playing a lot better. And despite their loss last year, he was able to get them into the postseason despite them blowing that 4-game lead versus Buffalo in the division. So, regardless, I think, again, the Dolphins win this game. Tua is going to be electric to start.
Yeah, completely agree with that. We move into the first game of the 4 o'clock window. The debut of Bo Nix here against the Seahawks here. What do you got, Broncos Seahawks?
Well, look, I like Bo Nix a lot. He was great in college. He was awesome with Oregon, especially. He looked really good in the preseason. I think we're going to see something really, really interesting in the sense where you got Bo Nix starting his career, first rookie since John Elway to start, rookie quarterback, that is. And he's taking on a Seattle team that had a last chance playoff run but fell short.
Yeah.
And Geno didn't have the best year, got hurt. Drew Lock was all right. He's now with the Giants. Look, I mean, you could see maybe a reversal of 2022, I think it was, where the hype was going into Denver and Russ and all of that, and Seattle beat them in week 1 and the Broncos fell apart.
Yep.
I think you could see the opposite, where Bo Nix plays good, new quarterback, fresh start, new coach, new system altogether. I think that Denver wins this game.
Yeah.
And I think they win because we're still not sure what we might get from Geno Smith this year. We could see Geno Smith from 2 years ago, or we could see Geno Smith from last year.
Yep.
And the Seahawks come in with lots of question marks, period, because of that division with San Fran and also the Rams there too, where the Rams, yeah, they're kind of banged up. They're kind of hit or miss too, but Matt Stafford's healthy and he looks pretty good so far this preseason.
Yep.
So, and also especially in training camp. So I think the Rams are on more of a quest this year to play better than the Seahawks for sure, obviously. But I think they're positioned to be in a much better spot than Seattle is. So
Yes.
I think the Broncos win the game and Bo Nix will start his career in a really good way.
Yeah, I got the Broncos too. I personally really have enjoyed what I've seen from Bo Nix so far in the preseason. Again, Geno, it's just hit or miss sometimes, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix, man, I do think he is. I definitely think already. I'll say that I think he's better than him. Again, we'll see what happens with the pressure of a first career regular season game. But look, I've seen it too many times with the Seahawks and Geno Smith. You just don't know what you're getting out of them.
Right.
But I like Kenneth Walker, Metcalf, Lockett. Those guys are good. But look, I do think Bo Nix is in a good spot. I really like Cortland Sutton. I think that is a great weapon for him. And yeah, look, the Seahawks, I don't know. I don't expect much from them this year, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked if they were only like a 7-win team. I really
Yeah,
7-8 team win maybe. I definitely think they're below 500. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just personally how I feel about that
sure.
team.
Yeah.
But the Broncos again, that I don't know if they'll be in a great team either. But they'll take steps forward this year with Bo Nix.
hmm
That's another team we probably could have mentioned that might take a little jump forward. But not
Yeah, I
much, not
mean,
much. But
yeah. Well, I mean, again, yes, somewhat of a jump, but I don't expect the playoff berth.
yeah, agreed. But yeah, I think the Broncos will win this one. I do have a feeling it'll be close just because of, there might be some struggles on both ends. I feel like just,
Mhm.
the pressure for Bo Nix starting off his season and Geno Smith being inconsistent. So yeah, I do think they win, but it's gonna be a relatively close game. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add in before we move on, or you think we're pretty
No, I
okay with
mean,
this one. Yeah.
no, yeah, I mean, again, we'll see what happens. I like Bo Nix a lot.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing him play.
Yes, I agree. We move on to the second of the two 4:05 games. We got two teams that are in some very interesting spots here. We got the new Gardner Minshew now starting for the Raiders here against a team that completely cleaned house this year in the Chargers. So, what do you got here in this game?
Well, we could see a really bad game depending on how Gardner does, but I think the Raiders win because Devontae Adams is someone who we can maybe trust.
Yeah,
Jimmy G is a disaster. Connell's not bad, but he's still too young, and
yeah,
he's not really NFL quality.
yeah,
Um, Gardner Minshew's a guy who's bounced around for years. He's proved his worth as a backup.
yeah,
He's even proved his worth sometimes as a starter. Jacksonville, the Colts, what have you. But with this Raiders team, with the weird position they're in again with this QB situation, I think he'll play well,
yeah,
and he'll take on a Chargers team that always happens to give up 30 points to start the season. And even though they got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, they still give up 30 points a game.
yeah,
So I think the Raiders will find a way to win this game, whether it's scoring 30 points or not. Jim Harbaugh comes in
yeah,
after I think he cheated to win a national championship, and now he's banned from college football for 4 years.
yeah,
So Jim Harbaugh, we'll see what happens with you here. He's now the coach of the Chargers. That could be good, could be bad. We'll see. But I think that the Raiders win. Justin Herbert's in a really unique spot. He's good, obviously, but he lost Williams. He lost Allen.
yeah.
He even lost Austin Eckler.
His top
So a lot of the
receiver
key
is
guys,
DJ Chalk. Like,
yeah, he lost a lot of key pieces he relied on for the first couple of years of his career.
yeah,
So they're gone, plus a new coach, plus new receivers, new running back, new everything.
yeah. It's J.K.
Defense the
It's literally
same.
J.K. Dobbins and DJ Chalk there, and J.K. Dobbins has not proven to me he could stay healthy.
Well, sadly,
Yeah,
because I like J.K. Dobbins, and he was great for the Ohio State Buckeyes in
yeah,
college. He was awesome to watch. His story is incredible.
yeah,
But unfortunately, he's had two separate ACL tears already.
yeah,
So that doesn't help. But look, we'll see. Hopefully, J.K. can stay healthy. But right now, I don't see much promise from the Chargers. Even if they put up 25, 30 points with the way that defense is, I think they still lose the game.
yeah. This
And
is
and
yeah.
and they
Sorry.
probably will.
Yeah. Look, this is the one thing I will say before we move on from this game, and obviously Staley's gone, which is a huge help for him. But man, I feel bad for Herbert. He is a decent quarterback and always gets the crappy end of the stick. I really feel that way. He always ends up in some
Well, look, I
bad
mean,
spots.
yeah, no, true. And look, I mean, again, if they have a really bad year, even with Harbaugh now at the
Yeah,
helm, maybe he gets traded, by next season.
it's very,
Maybe,
it's
maybe not. We'll
yeah,
see. And look, I mean, the Vikings got their quarterback in JJ
yeah,
McCarthy for now, but if he can't put it together,
yeah,
maybe they trade for Justin Herbert.
yeah,
A team like Seattle, maybe they get Justin Herbert because Geno's past his prime. Um, there are teams like that that could be in the running for a quarterback. The Patriots. How about the Patriots?
Yeah.
If Drake May, flames out, maybe they make a push for Justin Fields.
Very
Who
possible,
knows?
yeah. Very, very possible and all of that. With the Raiders, I've always liked Gardner Minshew. I really have. He's a guy who can come in and do what you need him to do. He's not an elite quarterback, but he's a guy that could get you there.
Mhm.
And to be honest,
Right,
I don't see him having any issues against that Chargers defense. I really don't.
right, right.
So I think honestly they win pretty convincingly here. I actually really
Sure,
feel that way. I feel like Devontae Adams has a great start to the season, actually, too.
sure.
I wouldn't be
Hmm.
shocked if he gets like 2 touchdowns against that team. I really wouldn't. But we're moving on to the first of two 425 games. This is going to be an interesting one, actually, because it's two really good defenses. We got the Cowboys against the Cleveland Browns. What do you got here?
Well, this is going to be intriguing too because you've got the Browns coming in with the whole, restructuring of Deshaun Watson's contract, which is really incredible how they did that.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys come in, finally paying CeeDee Lamb and not giving Dak money. So you've got that notion. At the same time, defenses, you're right. Myles Garrett could be slumped, but he could be great against this Cowboys O line and Dak Prescott. And for Cleveland, I mean, how are they going to be able to take care of some new faces on this Dallas back end? So, excuse me. It should be a close game. Dustin Hopkins has won a majority of the Cleveland games with his foot alone. So I think that could play a factor
Yeah.
here too. Expect a 3 to 7 point victory for Cleveland. I think the Browns
Wow.
win this game. Yes, I do. Because the Cowboys always find a way, especially on the road against playoff caliber teams, to lose.
Yes.
And I think of Buffalo.
That's the thing. They beat
Buffalo
you like you
struggled.
just they beat up on the bad teams. They beat up on the bad teams.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all Dak Prescott has done his whole
Yeah.
career. I don't care about 36 touchdown passes. I don't care much about 4,000 passing yards. It's impressive, but when you do it against the same crummy teams like the Commanders, the Giants, some other crummy teams at times like the Jets and the Colts, and at one point the Bears and the Lions, and the Cardinals and what have you,
Actually,
it
they
gets
lost to the
stale.
Cardinals last year. Actually, remember that they lost to the
Yeah,
Cardinals.
but the point is he puts up the stats against crummy teams, and against good teams he doesn't do too well.
Yeah.
And Cleveland comes in at following up a playoff appearance. So Dak is again that really flaky quarterback, and he's not great on the road. I think of
Yeah.
the game at Buffalo last year. He got
Yeah.
shell shocked.
Yes. Yeah.
Buffalo won by 21 points, and the Bills were struggling entering that game.
Yeah. They gave them life
So
again. They really gave them life.
yeah, yeah. So I think Dallas loses based on what we've
Yeah.
seen historically.
Yeah.
Going
Actually, they
to
went
a
into that
really good
game.
road team and losing. So
Yeah.
I think they lose. And Cleveland might not play the prettiest game, but I think it'll be pretty enough to win.
Yeah. Look, Cleveland. I have some concerns with just because of the fact that I don't necessarily know if I trust Deshaun Watson. Amari Cooper's just getting older. Let's be honest. And obviously they're without Nick Chubb for a while still, so there's definitely concerns there.
True, but Jerry Jeudy is going to make a big
Jerry
impact
Jeudy
on
is a
this.
huge addition. I agree, but he's another guy. Can he stay healthy? He's had a lot of injuries.
Keep in mind though, but he played with Denver a lot,
True.
and Russ was a bust over there.
True.
Now he's got Deshaun with Amari Cooper and a Browns team coming off a postseason appearance.
Yeah.
So and they're home.
True.
So
True.
that all, and again that all plays factors because again the Cowboys against playoff caliber teams on the road don't win and can't win.
Yep.
Sometimes they do, but that happens once in a very rare blue moon.
Yep. No, 100%. So yeah, I'm taking the Browns here, which would just be, I feel like, honestly, kind of a brutal start to the Cowboys season, but it's something you could also expect at the same time. We move on to the last game of the 4 o'clock window. We got the debut of Jaden Daniels against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. What do you got in this one?
That's going to be a good game. I think Jaden Daniels plays good. I think there's lots of promise from the Commanders this year. but this year is a time where it's not yet, but later on. Tampa wins the game. Baker Mayfield's coming off a good year.
Yeah.
At the same time, with the way it goes, Baker is good and then a bust. He's good and then a
You
bust.
talked all year about how you don't trust him last year. Has he gained
I know.
your trust a little or
I
no?
don't look. I mean, look. I honestly have to wait to see what happens because I don't trust him. I don't trust him with my car. I don't trust him with a beer.
Oh, it
him.
feels so good to be back to hearing these lines. Let's go, football's back.
I don't. Yeah, right. I don't trust him to walk a dog.
Yeah.
So the point is that look, I mean, we're gonna have to see what happens. He played good last year. He proved me wrong a lot last year.
Yeah.
But Baker is a guy, Cleveland, Carolina, Rams, maybe Tampa again, where he's good, then he's bad.
Yeah.
He's good, then he's bad. Then he moves on, goes somewhere else, throws up, goes somewhere else, is all right, but can't stay long term. Now he goes to Tampa, played good. What's going to happen this year?
Yep.
And his play is going to really, really impact and affect how the Falcons do, obviously. Because if he struggles, Kirk Cousins is going to see that and say, let's go, boys. Here you go. And they're going to overtake Tampa Bay. So it's a very important start. As of right now, I'll go with the Buccaneers.
Yep.
Because they're the better team. They're the home team. And on top of the fact, they were 8 points away from making the NFC title game last year. The Commanders are still in that rebuild phase.
Yeah.
Jayden Daniels is going to be excellent. It's a great move they have to get him. They're in a good spot long term with him as their quarterback.
Yeah.
But it's not now, it's a later on situation. Give me Tampa.
Completely agree. Look, I got Tampa in this game too. I actually think this will be a decent scoring game. I really do.
Yeah.
You know, the Commanders obviously added in Austin Eckler this offseason, which is a good move. He's definitely he took a little step back last year, but it is a big move for them. Look, here's the thing. I will say this. With Baker Mayfield, never say never on a potential Commanders upset because for some reason the Commanders do tend to start their season decent. They really do.
They do. Yeah, they do.
So, look, never say never on this as a possibility, but I will go the Bucs with a pretty good game from Mike Evans as well. I think Mike Evans is going to really help Baker Mayfield lead this team to the win. I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest, if this is... I wouldn't be shocked if it's like a 30-24 game. I really would not be shocked.
I can see it. Yeah, sure.
So, look, we'll see. Again, any given Sunday, anything could happen. You never know. But I am going to go with the Buccaneers for now. We got, obviously, on this time, we got like 17 minutes left, which gives us perfect amount of time to cover two amazing games that are left. A great start to Sunday Night Football for the season. We got a rematch from first game of one of the first playoff games last year. We got the Rams with their exciting offense against the Detroit Lions. This is going to be an incredible game.
Yeah.
What do you got here?
That was an awesome game, and kudos to Detroit for winning it last year, and also, of course, making the NFC title game. Give me Detroit once again, man. Look, it's going to be a battle between them and the Packers for first in the North this year, for sure. And the Rams are a team where, again, good year, made the playoffs, but against a better team, they don't win. And that was the case last year. That's the case here on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be an awesome matchup. Jared Goff against both Goff and Stafford traded for each other, playing against their old team against one another. Again, going to be awesome. So give me Detroit because there's a lot of hype going in there. Dan Campbell has a well-coached team. He's an excellent coach. Jared Goff is the right quarterback for that team. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the real deal over there in the Motor City.
Yeah. You got Sam Laporta.
Yeah. I mean, again, Laporta as that great tight end last year. Hopefully he stays healthy. He was great. Defense was solid last year. You've got that two-headed monster at the running back position with both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
I think Gibbs is going to be even better. I think Gibbs is even
Gibbs was incredible last year. So if Montgomery gets hurt, Gibbs fills in, does the job, and he does it well, or vice versa. So They're in a good spot again to be good. I think they win the division again, but they're in a good spot to be good and maybe make the NFC title game for
Yeah.
a second straight year. So give me Detroit. They're gonna win that game.
I completely agree, even with the fact that, dude, I will say this right now, and this is coming from somebody that is not nowhere near being a Rams fan, but they might have one of the youngest, most exciting offenses right now with Puka Nakua,
Sure.
Kyron Williams. They are
Yeah,
so,
true.
so fun to watch, but I am still going to go with the Lions. I would not be shocked if both teams put up 30 points. I really would
Well, look,
not.
I mean, again, the offenses make the difference, and Matt Stafford looks good entering this year. Cooper Kupp is healthy for now. That's a big key too. But Puka and Kyron Williams are two exciting players, and Puka was unbelievable last
Yeah.
year. He's gonna take a further step this year.
Yes.
But Detroit is the better team. And guaranteed it might not be a lot of experience, but they got a good amount of experience when they beat the Rams,
Yeah.
beat the Buccaneers, and almost beat the 49ers
Yeah.
last year in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So Detroit wins based off their recent experience and the fact that there's more at stake for them this year than the Rams. The Rams will be good.
Yep.
They'll probably make the playoffs again. Puka's going to be awesome, but give me Detroit.
Yeah, completely agree. Look, here's the one thing. Can Cooper Cup stay healthy? That's one big thing for them right here, the
Yeah,
Rams.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another couple of things we got to talk about. Detroit's got a young defense, so I would not be shocked if they give up a lot of points. The other thing with the Rams, how do you replace Aaron Donald? You cannot. It's so hard to replace a guy
Right.
like him. So I don't think their defense is going to be
Mm-hmm.
amazing either. I think their offense is going to be great, but their defense might not be amazing. So we'll see what happens there. I think, like I said, I think both teams are in the 30s, and I think we're in for one phenomenal Sunday night football game. But we move on to Monday Night Football, a game that is actually really, really important for the Jets, especially, and Aaron Rodgers to see if, well, first off, he needs to stay healthy. He cannot go down game one again. That would be an
Mm-hmm.
utter disaster. The Jets
Mm-hmm.
need to finally get to a point where they get excited going into the season and stay excited. They have to. If they have another disappointment, it's just gonna be a disaster for Jets fans. But against the San Francisco 49ers, a team who just finally, after months of a struggle with it, finally re-signed Brandon Ayuk. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this game?
Well, look, this is going to be the highlight. Obviously, you got Rodgers v. Purdy. Rodgers playing, Rodgers playing hopefully for the first time fully with the Jets. On top of the fact that he's playing against his hometown team, his team that he loved growing up. And Brock Purdy is the next real deal. I mean, he's unbelievable. So you've got two high-flying offenses, two strong defenses. Jets had a really good offseason in the amount of defensive pieces they got.
Yeah.
Now, they're a mess with not having Hassan Reddick on board, which is very sad and ironic. But Aaron Rodgers is the glue to all of this.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's got to be healthy. Lord willing, he'll be healthy. The last thing football needs, let alone the Jets, is to see him go down on 4 plays for a second straight year, be done for the season.
Yeah.
That was horrible last year.
Dude, the energy,
the
bro.
Jets-
You went from you went from one of the most amazing first game entrances you have probably seen in years, or if maybe even ever. The crowd was electric, and it just sucked the air out of the crowd when he went down. And to be totally honest, that was immediately just a nail in the coffin to their season, even though they still won that game.
One, it proves that the Jets have been cursed since Joe Namath cursed them back in 1969.
Yeah.
Number 2, MetLife Stadium's an absolute dump that should be shut down and just be put away for the rest of eternity. MetLife Stadium sucks. And MetLife Stadium is so bad that Aaron Rodgers on 4 plays in his Jets career was done for the season.
I don't think my man's blaming this on the stadium. I'm sorry. My man just blamed his injury
MetLife Stadium is a disaster. Look, I wouldn't let people have weddings at MetLife Stadium. That's how bad it is. It's horrible. And it's bad enough the Jets the Jets rent from MetLife Stadium. They don't even own the place.
I forgot about that until you just said that, I'm going to be honest.
Yep. But anyway, the point is, look, It's gonna be an awesome game. Should be a good game. God willing, he's healthy. God willing, it's a great matchup between him and Purdy. I think we'll see that. That game could be a shootout.
Yeah.
We could see a shootout. Could see a defensive stand. I think we'll see a 21-24 final. And honestly, I think Rodgers puts up a great performance. I think the Jets give a really good game, but they're playing in San Francisco.
It's a very hard place
Brock
to
Purdy,
win. Yeah.
yes. Brock Purdy and the Niners have a lot to prove after losing that Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
A lot to prove. Brock was awesome. Kittle was great. Deebo Samuel. Finally, Ayuk has his act together, and he finally signed that contract. That holdout was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But finally, he signed it. He's there. Christian McCaffrey's the best running back in the game. No question about it. They have a monster on offense. They have a monster on defense with Nick Bosa
Yep.
and the crew, including Fred Warner. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. He unfortunately can't win the Super Bowl. So there's a lot for them to prove this year. And honestly, if the Packers don't make a run, I hope they make a run and win the Super Bowl. I love Brock Purdy. I like the 49ers a lot. I really hope they go all the way. So with that in mind, to prove how good they're going to be this year, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets will give them a great fight. But I think Brock Purdy wins the game. I think the Niners win the game. I think they win by 3 points. Maybe not by a game-winning field goal, but by a game-winning touchdown.
Very powerful.
And they'll be down by 4. McCaffrey, whoever, probably McCaffrey scores a game-winning touchdown. The extra point's good. They're gonna win. That's it.
No, it's very possible. And look, I'm gonna be real. I agree with you. I think they win in what's gonna be an amazing game. Look, the Jets, like I said, they'll start 0-1, but then I think they're gonna start going on a tear. I think they'll maybe win, depending on their schedule, maybe 3-4 straight, get to a really solid record as long as Rodgers obviously stays healthy. Mike Williams, that big acquisition, needs to stay healthy as well. Because look, it was the same thing last year for the Jets. Obviously you lost Rodgers, and then obviously the usual situation they had of it was only Garrett Wilson as a receiver. Obviously you have Breece Hall, but now you got more help, which is awesome for Rodgers. So now he needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Mike Williams needs to stay healthy, and you got a great core over there with those guys. So you could continue to build on this. And look, the Jets are going to be fine. One loss is not going to kill them. It really isn't. Especially considering the fact that there's some question marks on if the other teams in their division are necessarily going to win their games. Just even though I understand, the Jaguars and Dolphins, the Bills and Cardinals, but there's question marks on those teams too. I feel like more the Bills, but it's hard to say anything for the Jaguars game for the purpose of it's 2 quarterbacks, as we both said, who just got big contracts. They're going to be out on a mission there, so I feel like it could go either way, but I'm going to go the Dolphins. But look, I don't think an 0-1 start will kill the Jets. I think they'll be fine. Niners win. I would not be shocked if McCaffrey puts up 2 touchdowns to start the season. I think it's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah. Again, he's incredible. Yeah. It'll be a great game. And again, for the Jets, look, again, if they lose that first game, that's fine. Rodgers has to be healthy by the time the game's over. That's all that matters. At the end, win, loss, tie, whatever.
Yes.
And at the same time, Williams has to be healthy. Garrett Wilson has to stand out. Allen Lazard will be healthy hopefully this year. His buddy from Green Bay. Randall Cobb maybe could be in the mix too.
I thought he may have retired, but I could be wrong.
If he's there. But the point is, Aaron Rodgers got to be healthy. He's got to be there. Win or loss, he's got to still be around to play football.
Yep.
And again, we'll see what happens. It'll be a great game, but give me the Niners.
We got like 3 minutes left, so one thing I do want to add in here, obviously not including any of the games, is this is an unbelievable schedule to start the season. A really, really good week 1. It's so nice and refreshing, and look, I guarantee you it's going to change. I guarantee you if we do week 2 or whatever, we're going to be like, crap, here comes the bad games. But it's so nice to see Thursday Night Football, great game. Sunday Night Football, great game. Monday Night Football, great game. and some great games in the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock windows. And
Yeah.
you even have Friday night football. So there were some great games in there, which you usually
Yeah.
don't see ever since they went to Prime. These Thursday night games, especially, have been a disaster.
Well,
So
look, I mean, again,
so to kick
the
off the
Thursday night
season, so it's
game,
usually different. But yeah,
all these Thursday night first games have been great.
yes, true.
Afterwards, it turns into a toilet bowl.
Yeah,
But I mean, maybe it happens again. I hope it doesn't. But don't be surprised if we see the Panthers and the Bears again on Thursday Night Football. Or if we see, the 49ers and I don't know, the Titans.
yeah,
And again, I'm just throwing out games. I don't know off the top of my head what are the Thursday night games this year.
yeah,
Don't be shocked if we see one team much better than the other, or two crummy teams playing each other.
yeah,
Where 83-year-old Al Michaels, who I love Al Michaels, but Al Michaels will be doddering around on Amazon Prime now, covering these two teams where
yeah,
one team is horrific and the other team plays like they don't know what the heck they're doing.
yeah,
So it's going to be really, really something.
yeah.
And honestly, I mean, the Prime has been so bad. The fact that you have to pay to watch this crap is ridiculous.
I know. Look, I've
You
said it
know.
before. I know it's hard for all 18 weeks to be that way, but Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night football needs to be a way that it's the most marquee matchups
Yeah.
possible. And the
Yeah.
fact
Oh,
that,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that they
And
have
look,
not done that.
if it's on Amazon Prime, it should be prime time. That's
Yes,
number one. And if it's not prime time, then the people who make this schedule who don't make a prime time should be fired.
yes.
Gone, kaput, goodbye.
Yeah, completely agree. But yeah, no, it looks like a great week. So exciting that football is back. Um, it's always such a long off season, such a short season, so it's such a
Yeah.
great feeling to have football back. I think when you get closer to the regular season, look, I love hockey, I love basketball, and I love baseball, but it is the most anticipated, exciting build up, I feel like, of all the sports every year.
Oh yeah.
So
Yep.
it should be fun, and let's see how the games go. Hopefully, they all live up to the hype. Carolina Saints, we won't even talk about more, but
Yeah.
yeah, it should be a
And
fun. Yeah.
and and just one more thing, for the sake of your sanity, for the sake of your physical health, don't play or walk on the MetLife Stadium field. That's all I'll tell you.
Yep. But yeah, it should be a good week, and yeah, some great games. Thank you guys so much for watching our week 1 podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it, guys. Like I said earlier at the start of the video, we are officially back to doing this. We're not missing any weeks this year. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, if you guys agreed with us on most of these picks, if you guys thought anything different. I want to hear everything. I want to hear all you guys' opinions. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you guys next week for week 2. NFL is back. Let's go.